If you're into podcasts, you should check out our podcast, Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. It's about cold cases that were eventually solved. New episodes are released every other week. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. We think we see something out of the corner of the eye, a being that doesn't look human, or a flash of something that whips by, and we question if we've even seen it at all. These interdimensional beings seem to inhabit our world while not being from our world. They seem to come in and out of their own dimension that we don't have access to. So, what are these interdimensional beings? Do they come in peace, or do they mean to harm us? Number 3. Aliens. We've heard about aliens for a long time. Whether they've been represented as green Martians or beings with long oval head shapes, visitors from other worlds have occupied our collective imagination since we can conceptualize that Earth was not the only planet in the universe. Astronaut and chemist Helen Patricia Sharman stated, "Aliens exist, there are no two ways about it." And many don't think it's a question of when the aliens arrive on Earth, it's a question of where they are now, because they're already here. But if they are here, why can't we see them? In an article entitled, "Could Invisible Aliens Really Exist Among Us?" an astrobiologist explains, the author discusses how there are over 100 ways people define what the term life means, and this can stand as a roadblock to truly understanding what alien life forms are. Sharman, the aforementioned astronaut chemist, questions what this could look like. She states, "Will they look like you and me, made up of carbon and nitrogen? Probably not. It's possible they're here right now, and we simply can't see them. It's possible these life forms exist in a shadow biosphere, a different dimension in which they have a completely different biochemistry. This would mean that the aliens exist and are here on Earth, but we don't register them. They may even be microscopic in size. And maybe the aliens are simply in another dimension we humans don't have access to." Some have argued that this could be a parallel universe. Arguments about this possibility have discussed how the universe constantly expands and something called dark energy fills empty space. One way dark energy can be described is that gravity pulls matter closer together. On the other hand, dark energy pushes it apart. A lot of dark energy causes space to expand faster and galaxies to form, and too little dark energy causes galaxies to collapse. So perhaps there's another universe in which there's a life form right now different from our own. Ultimately, the ever-expanding universe holds many mysteries. But according to studies and astronauts mentioned in this article, we probably shouldn't be too confident that we're alone in this world. Number 2. Elves. If you're familiar with the Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams' 2020 film Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga, which follows two Icelandic songwriters and performers who make it to the Eurovision Song Contest, you may already know where we're going with this. Turns out that many people in Iceland believe in the existence of elves and that they live among them. In Iceland, one of the most common groups of elves is referred to as the hidden people, or huldufólk. And it seems that the percentage of people who believe in elves has grown over time. In a 1998 survey conducted by a newspaper, 54.4% of Icelanders who participated either believed that the elves existed or could exist. In 2007, that number changed to 62%. So that means a majority of Icelanders believe in elves. There are many types of elves, and their sizes can vary significantly. Some are 3 feet tall, and others are nearly 10 feet tall. If you're picturing pointy ears, you would be correct, but there are no pointy hats. Elves dress in old-fashioned clothing, but it's hard to narrow down the era. One problem with describing elves is that there are over 50 different types. Some wonder if the narrative of elves existing in Iceland has to do with Iceland's history. There were no indigenous peoples in Iceland before the Vikings arrived in the 870s. A Laricall lecturer at the University of Leeds argues the Vikings wanted to be conquerors, so the elves gave them someone to have conquered. The story of elves inhabiting the island became part of the country's mythology. The first time elves were recorded on paper is in a poem from a Viking period around 1000 AD. More stories about the elves can be found in literature from the 17th and 18th centuries. The elves became an idolized group of beautiful and peaceful people. If learning about elves in Iceland interests you, you can actually go on an elf walk. A good place to go for one of these is Hofstadtfjörður because it's the elves' capital city. We can't promise you'll see any elves while you're on the tour because they possibly live in another dimension, but it seems that elves just go about their daily lives like you and us. They have jobs, farms, and some even have boats. For the most part, elves don't cause any problems and they don't hurt people. That is unless you threaten their lives. Then you should watch out. For example, if you plan on doing construction in Iceland, you may want to consider the elves. In many cases, people have tried to build roads or conduct other construction projects in the areas where the elves are living. As a result, machines stop working or workers get hurt. It's believed that the elves were living in one of the rocks and they caused the equipment to break. It's believed that the elves were living in that rock and caused the equipment to break. Another similar case spanned decades in Kopervgur. There was a rock named Alf Hill, and in the 1930s, there was construction to build a road where the rock was. The project was never completed because there were so many accidents. It was left until the 1980s when they attempted to work on the road again, but the same problems arose. As a result, no one wanted to continue working on the project for fear of what might happen to them, so they built the road around the rock. This is one way people see elves as the protectors of nature. However, elves aren't only saving nature, they also save people. One person who claims elves saved them was Arnie Johnson, a former member of the Icelandic Parliament. In 2010, he recounted the story of when he flipped his SUV while driving on an icy road. He went off a cliff, but was barely hurt in the process. He believes that the elves are responsible for saving his life. It seems Icelanders are lucky to have elves to look after the land and the people. While not everyone sees elves, many have reported having an encounter. Some say that the reason elves make themselves known is because they feel safe. And it would seem that many Icelanders take their safety seriously and respect them. With elves being so prominent in Iceland, why don't people see them? That's because they live in a parallel universe. If they want us to see them, they do that, but most of the time, they live in a world we can't see. So don't plan on any elf hunting if you live or are visiting Iceland. Number 1. Shadow People. Our next species of interdimensional beings are called Shadow People. Shadow People are black figures that often look like humans, but other times they are more grotesque. They are often 6.5 feet tall and are usually male. One notable feature is that they appear to wear coats and fedora-like hats. Other interesting descriptions of the Shadow People include that they have large heads, but they don't have many distinct features like a mouth. However, some people have reported seeing glowing red eyes. One big difference between actual shadows and shadow people is that shadows are transparent, and most of the time, shadow people are not. One specific shadow person that people have reported seeing is the Hat Man. This shadow person wears a fedora, a 3-piece suit, and a trench coat. Paranormal researcher Heidi Hollis argues that the Hat Man is like a demon or the devil. She claims that these shadow beings are looking to bring people over to the dark side. So Hat Man is basically a dark side recruiter. It seems like it's difficult to get a good look at shadow people. People say they often see them out of the corner of their eyes. If they do appear in front of you, they move quickly or appear for only a few seconds. They usually appear on walls. In extreme cases, people have said shadow people have choked them while sleeping. One shocking thing is how common encounters with shadow people are. According to several websites, in 2010, it was described as the most regularly reported paranormal phenomena in the United States. There have been many hypotheses as to what exactly the shadow people are. One thing is, they are definitely not ghosts. One big difference between shadow people and ghosts is that ghosts are the spirit of someone who existed and can resemble this person. Shadow people don't look like anyone. As for what they could be, well, the theories seem endless. Obviously, since they appear on this list, one theory is that they are interdimensional beings who are observing humans. Others think they might be demons. Another theory is that shadow people are present when there are turbulent emotions. This theory posits that shadow people are attracted to fear and put off by positive emotions. Yet another theory is that the shadow people are made from negative psychic energy and they are attracted to places where terrible events have occurred. Other suggestions include that the shadow people are found when people have out-of-body experiences or that shadow people are time travelers coming to us from the future. And there are other, less fantastic explanations for what is happening with shadow people. One is that there is no actual shadow people, and what people think are shadow people are simply hallucinations brought on by drug use. Another is that they are the result of hypnagogia, which is when someone is awake and kind of asleep and thinks they're seeing real things, but really they're just dreaming. One suggestion that was inconsistent is that electromagnetic fields create issues in people's brains when they think they see things. And finally, it's just people's imaginations, as the Temptations would say, running away with them. But whatever shadow people are, they sound terrifying. This list of 3 interdimensional beings spans from the terrifying to the misunderstood to the fantastic. Whether or not these interdimensional beings truly exist is a question for another day. But if so many people are seeing them, and if so many people believe in them, then, in their own way, they do exist. Maybe we need to find a way to make space for beings on Earth because it seems they're already here. Perhaps they just need a little safe space to make themselves fully known. Or maybe they're evil, and doing so will open a door to something terrifying. It could go either way. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. We also have a podcast about cold cases that were eventually solved called Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. You can find it on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you find great podcasts. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.